Yo, day 7, I think. Um, it's daytime this time, so I'm gonna start ranting now. It's Saturday. Um, I'm gonna go to the thrift store and then do some work because since I work on a startup, I don't really have days on or off. So work every day or don't, or I don't. It doesn't matter. I feel like working. So I'm gonna climb today. Today's my on day for crushing. Gonna hopefully crush. Gonna go to AA tonight. Gonna hang out with my sponsor today at 6. Um, I had a green tea today, like 2 pots of Sencha green tea at the coffee shop, and the internet was out, and so I instead of going on the internet and doing work, I just read this book called The Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are by Alan Watts. And I've had this one in my library for years, and I've read it a couple of times. And what it talks about is how the most important thing it talks about is that, the concept of God is all of us. Like the lives we are living are the lives of God. Um, it's not something out there. It's something everywhere in us, and we're existence. I mean, see, when people start calling it God, I'm like, I don't get it, right? Like, I mean, when you say God, what are you even saying? Like, if you say God is everywhere, God is all of us, and God is the person underlying the experience of reality. A way I've heard it said by yogis is like, you know, your true self is the consciousness behind your ego, so it's the one that watches. And that's a fine description. That is myself. Um, and often I've then heard people go on to say that if you truly become aware of yourself, you'll see that it is not separated from anything else in reality, that it is one with all of reality. And I guess maybe that's the concept of God that makes sense to me is um, maybe realizing that our self is not isolated. I think that would be the most important insight. So if God is everything and everywhere, including us, and it is centered on our experience and our consciousness, um, then I guess what that might mean in a practical sense is just that our experience as individual egos is actually an illusion, and so therefore we should not be worried too much about those ego things that happen in the mind, the person that we create, and we should instead maintain the perspective that we don't have a boundary in the world, that we are, um, that we're not really separate, we're not really alone or isolated, we are completely connected. So like the way that I applied that was like just being nice to the person I saw next to me at the coffee shop, um, just being like friendly, and then when I was leaving, instead of just like picking up and leave like I always do, like everyone does, I was just like, hey, have a nice day. And the person smiled and was like, oh, you too, and like don't expect humans to be kind to each other. So I guess that's what I'm trying to do right now. Maybe is to focus more on, like, if you want to say, like, from an AA perspective, like, we give ourselves to our higher power. What that means is not that I'm giving myself to a magic sky fairy, but that I am maintaining the perspective that that everyone is equally important, in that my purpose as a body skin bag is to do what is useful, um, and what is good, right? What is good and right in the world. So that might still mean pursuing some sense of self-interest, um, not just blindly sacrificing, but just doing the right thing and doing the good thing. So being moral because it's good for all of us, because we're all me. You are me, you're watching me, I am you. It's a pretty cool concept, honestly. It's one that doesn't get applied enough, and it's one that, when I have this like box in my head where I put Buddhist and Hindu philosophy, and I just, because I've kind of studied it, and I say, I get it. I get that, and then I go on living my life like egocentrically. So I really don't think I get it. At least not in the way that you're maintaining that perspective, right? So to get it means that you're not acting from a sense of self-centeredness. Now, if you don't take the metaphysical stuff to be, even true, like maybe you're like, actually, no, I am centered in myself and I'm not centered in everything in the universe because I just don't believe that. Then maybe another perspective that is useful, at least for me, is that like we are the one experiencing what's happening in the world, and that experiencer is often separate from the thinker. Just that works for me because then I feel kind of like I'm taking a back seat, like I'm just kind of flowing, right, with the universe. I'm the one experiencing me talking right now, and I don't really have any worries as the experiencer. It's the ego that has the worries. So this would be kind of like maybe power of now kind of stuff where it's focused on the person, the ego, and then the consciousness behind the ego. That's one way of thinking about things that makes sense to me. And the other way might just be to say that that everything in the universe is one, in that we are without boundaries, in that any sense of self is illusory. So two perspectives that help me. They definitely have practically good implications for the world. So even if you don't truly believe them, they're good approaches, I think, to taking on the world. But you might not believe that, and that's cool. I mean, I'm just saying, it's something that when I believe it, it makes me feel good, and it's something that resonates with me. Like, it just seems to make sense. Like, oh, okay, like here's like this brain which is input output, like responding to stimuli, and it's just like this mechanical kind of thing. And then there's also like the spontaneous experience of just consciousness that's just it's kind of not in control or out of control of anything. It's just kind of existent. So for me, that's a cool way of thinking about life. In other news, I had a green tea today, sencha, and it was really good. It actually overwhelmed me with feelings of energy, which obviously like green tea has not a lot of caffeine. Like my chai tea in the morning has more caffeine than the green tea, but when I have a green tea, I go from feeling normal to like feeling like up here, like the only way to describe it is it's like it fills a void in my brain, like like if you were to take drugs, like it would just like put this thing in your head that's just like right here. It just fills it up. It just expands outward, like your head is full, um, which I would contrast with the experience of being like longing for drugs or anything, where you feel like empty and like you need to fill your head. At least for me, a lot of where the experience happens is in my head or like in my throat and in my stomach kind of area. That's where like I feel full by substances, or I would feel empty without them. Um, so yeah, it's actually overwhelming though. I actually think like the green tea I had was too much for some reason. It could be because I had chai before that, and that's a lot of caffeine. Um, but you know, like I guess if you look back to me in my normal, which I now would call abnormal life, I would have like probably 2 shots, double shot of espresso to start off the day, and then a coffee by noon, and then like 1 or 2 more coffees the rest of the day, depending on how tired I am. And then I would like pop sleeping pills before bed. And that was like me having a good day. Like that's a sober day. Like a fucked up day would be like different. It would be probably that amount of caffeine, but just feeling like shit. So, and eating like terrible food, like burritos, and like, you know, gnarly food. Um, and then like working out just to get the stress out and like just feeling like I'm gonna die. Um, One thing I feel today is that I have too much energy, um, which is interesting. Like and I said that about the green tea, but just in general, um, I feel like I'm a very high-strung person who gets off on having a ton of energy, and I'm trying to like even too much energy is uncomfortable, right? Too little is uncomfortable. Too much is uncomfortable. I'm trying to figure out how I can get in that middle path and still feel good, because usually, unless I feel overwhelmed by energy, I feel sapped of energy. Like it's either too much or too little. I don't know where the middle ground is. I have a feeling that any amount of caffeine is probably too much for me. In that I need to eventually get over that caffeine addiction in order to stabilize completely, which I've wanted to do for a long time, and now I think I have the tools to do, because of AA. And really, like AA is the game changer here. I mean, I've been trying to do self improvement for like my whole life, and nothing is ever stuck. Even like I'm on 21 days now, 3 weeks, probably the longest I've ever been sober since I was like 13, 14. So like this is definitely uncharted territory, and I'm definitely not under the illusion that it's my doing and that, you know, I've somehow succeeded. I'm under the knowledge that like this is because of like the community support I'm getting, and the program, which I haven't really completely started yet, but at least where I am, like it's working great, because for some reason I don't really have much of an urge to drink, and I don't have an urge really for anything bad. I mean, I think about doing it, but that's just a compulsive thought. Like, oh, I should drink, or like I should like eat terrible food or something. But it's not because I crave it. It's because that's just a thought that's spinning around in my head. So it's working for me so far. As you can tell, I'm having a good day. So I want to get out there and do some things today. I'm going to do some work with my designer, and I'm going to go to the climbing gym, climb hard, and then I'm going to talk to people tonight, and hopefully go to bed early. It's a Saturday. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to go to bed whenever, 10 p.m., 11, read a book and go to bed, because that's my life now. Unless something interesting is going on, which I wouldn't know, because I don't like go out of my way to like find interesting events, and I'm also new in town, so it's like I'm still adjusting, finding people to hang out with. So, whew, that was I think my best vlog yet. and it's only going to keep getting better. So you should keep watching. See you later, dudes.